Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into a technology that is, well, it's already changing our world as we speak: artificial intelligence. We're going to zero in on how it's poised to completely revolutionize the service industries. I mean, just think about it for a second. A technology that could change everything from how you order your morning coffee to how your entire retirement is planned out. The potential here is just massive. But that brings us to the big question, the one that really frames this whole explainer. If AI has all this incredible potential to create a seamless, super personalized, ultra efficient future for services, why aren't we there yet? What's the holdup? What's this gap between the promise and the reality we're actually living in? So let's start with the why. Why is everybody so hyped up about AI? What's the engine driving this massive push for adoption? Well, the promise is huge, and it really comes down to three main benefits. First up, and this one is a real game changer, is operational efficiency. Think about tools like robotic process automation, or RPA. Now, in simple terms, these are basically software bots that can take over all the boring, repetitive tasks. Data entry, processing invoices, sorting through customer emails. The research shows this not only streamlines everything, but also slashes human error. In manufacturing, for instance, AI-powered computer vision is already making assembly lines faster and way more accurate. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. AI goes way beyond just making things faster. It can create these truly unique experiences for customers. Take the tourism industry. AI chatbots are offering 24/7 support, answering your questions instantly. But they're also getting smarter, giving you recommendations tailored specifically to your tastes. It's all about making every single interaction feel like it was designed just for you. And then there's the superpower of data. AI gives us the ability to make smarter decisions and to do it at lightning speed. In the financial world, for example, predictive analytics can spot a fraudulent transaction in the blink of an eye, something a human team might totally miss. Or in construction, AI is helping predict costs and manage risks on massive projects, which means we get more efficient and sustainable buildings. And the key thing to realize here is that this isn't some niche technology for one or two sectors. Its impact is spreading like wildfire. We're talking about everything from how we travel and manage our money to how our public services are run. AI is fundamentally redrawing the map for service industries everywhere. It's a true cross-sector revolution. So, with a promise that big, you'd think the rollout would be pretty smooth, right? Well, the reality is a whole lot messier. The expectation of just plugging AI in and watching it go clashes with the hard reality of massive implementation costs. The dream of seamless automation, it runs smack into the wall of a workforce that doesn't have the right skills. And the goal of everyone having access, that's being blocked by some pretty significant gaps in infrastructure. And this brings us to the peril part of our story, the real practical roadblocks that organizations are slamming into. And these aren't just little speed bumps. We're talking about major hurdles that can completely throw an AI project off the rails. This slide breaks down those barriers into three core buckets, and it's a great illustration. On the technological side, you've got the challenge of making AI work with old, clunky systems, not to mention the sheer cost of it all. Then, infrastructurally, a lot of places just aren't ready. They might lack basic internet connectivity or the computing power needed. And finally, you've got the organizational side, the human factors. People are afraid of losing their jobs, they lack the necessary skills, and sometimes the AI project just doesn't line up with what the business is actually trying to achieve. And what's fascinating is how our whole view of these problems is kind of skewed. The research for this explainer looked at over 100 studies, and it found that most of the research is coming out of developed countries. What that means is we have a huge blind spot when it comes to the unique challenges that developing nations are facing. This is a global issue, and it's not just about the tech. Which brings us to the next layer of peril. Because beyond all the practical roadblocks, there are these deeper, more complex societal questions that we absolutely have to tackle. So let's talk about the really critical challenges of ethics, bias, and data privacy. One of the biggest ethical minefields is something called algorithmic bias. See, if you train an AI on biased data that reflects our own human prejudices, well, its decisions are going to be biased too. This can lead to seriously discriminatory outcomes in critical areas, like who gets a loan or who gets access to public services. And that doesn't just create unfairness, it completely shatters our trust in these systems. So here's the bottom line. If the public loses trust, the whole thing falls apart. It's that simple.
When we have AI systems making life-altering decisions using our personal data, we have to be able to trust that they're fair, that they're transparent, and that they're accountable. Without that trust, this whole grand project of widespread AI adoption could absolutely fail.
So, how do we get through this? How do we get all the incredible promise of AI without falling headfirst into the peril? Well, that brings us to our final section, the path forward. These are strategies for doing AI adoption successfully and, most importantly, responsibly. All right, let's start with the people, because overcoming resistance inside an organization is absolutely key. Step 1, invest in your team. That means upskilling and training so they have the confidence and the skills to work with AI, not feel threatened by it. Step 2, be radically transparent. Everyone, from the CEO down to the person on the front line, needs to understand what the AI is doing and why. And third, bring people into the process. Co-designing these systems with the employees who will actually be using them is a must. It ensures they're practical and builds a real sense of ownership. Next up, the technical foundation. To really build a solid base for AI, we've got to invest in things like the Internet of Things and cloud computing. But it's not just about one company's tech. We have to think bigger. We need public-private partnerships to help close that resource gap, especially in developing countries. And most critically, we need to establish strong rules for data governance and ethics before we roll these systems out, not as an afterthought. It has to be baked in from the very beginning. So when you put it all together, what's the big takeaway here? It's that getting AI right is not just a tech problem. It's a really delicate balancing act. You need this harmony between powerful technology, people-first policies that empower your workforce, and strong ethical oversight to make sure everything stays fair and builds trust. And that leaves us with one last, really crucial question to chew on. As AI becomes more and more woven into the very fabric of our daily lives, who's actually responsible for writing its ethical code? Is it the programmers, the companies that deploy it, our governments, or is it a shared responsibility that falls on all of us? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.